Hey Brad, happy new year and all that jazz, mate. First recording of 2025 and we're into week 18. A week approach with caution, mate. There is going to be a small slate. This will be our quickest podcast of the season, just by the nature of that. Brad, there's only one place we can start, mate. Game of the week and potentially game of the season. One of the highest totals, 56 is the total in the Vikings and Lions. Vikings getting 3, back them at 2.38 on the money line. And Brad, this is one that you're going to book a Monday off early in the year. This is the one to do it, right?
Yes, yeah. I've not stayed up for a night game all season, but maybe this one. And yeah, I think it's
start me with the first selection. Vikings plus 3.5, 178. That, like, I mean, look, actually, that's on the Bet Builder match book. The exchange is actually 176, so that'll kind of tell you. So there's actually a bit more value on the Bet Builder. It's a key number, and yeah, take it away, man.
Yeah, that was part of the reason I bet that, because the Bet Builder price was a few ticks better than the exchange, which you don't often see. So have a crack at it. I mean, the main thing here is the Detroit defense. So everyone knows about their injuries. They might get Alex Anzalone back at linebacker this week. Looks like he's going to play for the first time in 6 weeks or so. So a little bit healthier, but still generally they're missing 6 starters or something like that. Most of the starting defensive line, starting corners, starting linebackers, it's still a mess. So since week 15, the Lions are dead last in the NFL in EPA allowed. They're dead last in explosive play rate allowed. 22% of plays against them are explosive plays, which is insanely bad. Success rate 31st in the NFL. And often you've got to be careful with small samples in especially in defensive stats, because it depends on who you play. But when you look at who they played, one, Josh Allen. So this is where all these stats from these last 3 games. One, Josh Allen, where he went for 48, did he? 48, 44, something like that. Obviously demolished them. But then Caleb Williams and the Bears went for 330 odd yards, which is not ideal. And then last week, the 49ers missing most of the offensive line, missing Trent Williams, missing CMC, missing Ayuk. They went for a 60% success rate, which is only 4 teams all season long have been 60% success rate or higher. And then the 49ers, they scored 32, didn't they? They still missed 2 kicks. They turned it over. So they should have put up more than that as well. And so to me, that's like 1 bad offense, 1 middling offense, 1 very good offense, but they've been pretty much demolished by all 3. And the Vikings come in and they are much closer to the Bills. And another stat here: the Lions have allowed the most passing yards and yards per attempt to play action since week 15. What do the Vikings do? They have to come in, Shanahan style, throw some play action in there as well. The Lions play man, so they're going to man up against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Not going to go well for them at all. So I think any which way you look at it, I don't know how the Vikings don't score a lot of points, because what's also interesting is that the Lions are still stopping the run, about 3.2 yards per carry again over the last month. So the Vikings are just going to chuck it, or just going to chuck it with play action, and every single thing you look at says they're going to have success doing that.
If you just strip it all back for a second too, right? If you look at, like, take away special teams, look at the 4 units: 2 offenses, 2 defenses, right? 2 offenses and the Vikings defense are all either top 10 or top 5 units in the league. And then we look at the passing D for the Lions, and are they ranked like 31st the last couple of weeks? They're getting the stride. So like, if you just strip it back at that level, and like there's a reason the total is, its total was 56, or it's ticked down to 55.5. It's still a high total. It's one of the highest years. There's a reason it's that way, because you saw it again last week with the Lions. They have to score to win games currently, and it probably, unfortunately, isn't sustainable. There was always going to be questions about that secondary anyway, but the fact that when obviously you lost a few guys in the line, so they're not getting the pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, and you can mask a lot of secondary deficiencies when you can get a pass rush. And like Brad, like Vikings team total as well, 27.5, and even money. I mean, to get to 28, and if you literally made the case for all those other offenses, if those offenses can do it, this Vikings offense with KOC as play caller could have a lot of fun.
And I think you can go after them in pretty much every segment of the game. Like Vikings first half team total, we know about the KOC script, and the one I did like a lot as well was the first quarter, both teams over 2.5 points, which is again it's on the matchbook bet
It's on the
builder. It's
bet builder.
minus.
Yeah.
Is it 2.0 now? They're
2.0. Yeah, I just checked literally
they're
pre-recording. Yeah.
the reverse line moving me. I've been betting 1.98, and but it's pretty much, or both teams to score any points is 1.83 on Bet365. So you're getting a much better price, I would say. And again, it's Minnesota score, and then obviously the Detroit script again, equally as good, top 10 this season. So I think that's quite a nice way to get, the scripts on side there at what a favourite price compared to a lot of the market.
So just on that one, if you're in the bet builder tab of Matchbook, if you go to the teams tab and you can build it that way, the team totals you can do for the first half, first quarter, and full game. So there'll be a first quarter tab as well that you will see on your desktop or your mobile as well. So yeah, I like that one, even money as well. And Brad, look, like we said in previous weeks, we're going to wait for Bet Builder of the Week for the Telegram group on Sunday when there's a lot more markets like reception line and also longest reception. Like there's a couple of likely lads here. Even if I know we spent a lot of time talking about the Vikings offense, but the Lions offense, where Minnesota is susceptible, is giving up big plays in the passing game. The likes of Jameson Williams could be an option here, but also who else are you thinking in terms of Vikings? Addison, Jefferson, take your pick.
Yeah, it's the outside receivers because I think they're going to try and play man. That's what they've done all season long, and they just do not have the horses for it. I quite like both the receivers' longest over. We're talking about that 22% explosive pass rate, which is obscene. So they seem to have jacked Darnold up. He's at 39.5 longest, but both receivers still look quite doable. Addison at 24.5, Jefferson 28.5. I think that'd be the way I get it, because I also think that I feel like the Lions are going to blitz more often. They had some success blitzing Darnold in the first game, but in the first matchup, I think they got 3 sacks. And I think if the choice is get bled slowly to death and keep your offense off the field, I think they'd rather just like send blitzes, try some weird stuff. So again, they're already giving up a lot of explosive plays, and I can see them just sort of sending more blitzes at Darnold just to try and make something happen, whether it's good or bad. Because worst case scenario, you give up 7, you get your offense back on the field, and you're not keeping them off the field while also giving up 7 into a 12-play drive.
I think it's a high leverage spot for both teams too. I mean, like whoever loses this one is on the road next week. I think, given their 6-7 point odds, I think it's the Rams that potentially go to LA. And again, look, it's a winnable game, but emotionally, for what you could potentially put into this game, you could have a situation. I'd worry more about the Lions in that spot, I feel, because I just do think they've been kind of going on fumes a bit, and I don't know. Like I said, who's more likely to stay in a game? It's Minnesota. Whereas if the Lions offense gets stopped at any point, the defense, I don't think can keep them in the game. Whereas I think you can make that case for Minnesota that their defense can keep them in games.
You feel that it would be more soul crushing for the Lions to be the 5 seed, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because after the season they've had, all year long, it was like, we are the best team in the league. We're beating everyone. And then all these injuries, and they played hard last week because of the culture, because that's how they do things. But if they lose this game and it's all been not worthless, but you've lost your entire starting defense, you've not had a rest. They haven't had a bye week since like week 6 or something. So I can easily see they lose a close one here and they just go to LA and just don't really have much left.
Yeah, it's a high leverage spot, but it's going to be a good game. And like I said, if early Mondays off in January, it's a good way to go. Who wants to go back to work on the 6th of January anyway? I've also got a flight at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, so I'm just going to time it that I get up in the hotel for second half. I think it's the way to go. Go and check in, watch it on the phone or the iPad. It's the only way to go. Saturday game, mate. It's one of the few ones that kind of matter really this week. The Bengals at Steelers. It's the later one on Saturday into Sunday morning. Bengals on the road. Favorites here 183 on the money line. Laying 2, 47.5 is the total. Brad, you're going to go yin and a bit of yang here because everyone's want to be on the Bengals this week, and the market's dictating that. But the Steelers, you like them on the money line. And Brad, like that 3-game stretch, they lose to Ravens, Eagles, and the Chiefs. There's probably, you can make this case, potentially three of the 4 best teams in the NFL, right?
Yeah, that is as hard a stretch as I think you could
Yeah,
literally create, basically,
and
because
the
it
time of the
wasn't
year
just
with the games,
yeah.
Christmas Day as well, and stuff like that.
So it was Philly on a Sunday where the
Yeah,
defense couldn't get off the field and they ran 90 snaps or so, and there was that famous 10-minute drive or something
yeah,
to end the game where they just were just getting mauled up and down the field. And it looks, and then you come back 6 days later, you've probably got one of the other top three most physical teams in the league, the Ravens. You're still missing George Pickens. The defense is gassed. The Ravens go up and down the field, batter you, and then you've got to come back 4 days later and play the Super Bowl champions, having just faced the two toughest, most physical teams, and then they batter you as well because they're getting healthier at the right time. And after the game, the defenders are going, I don't really know what's going on. Like, I don't know what's happening. And I was sitting there thinking, you've just played three of the best 5 teams in the league in 11 days. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Of course,
yeah.
they put you in a horrid spot. So I feel like they're underrated because of that. Like the defense is still good. It is still probably a top 8 unit, despite being sliced up by the Ravens and the Chiefs, especially with a little bit of extra rest. That was last Wednesday now. So what's that? 10 days, 11 days to rest. The pass rush against this Bengals O-line is massive mismatch. Brandon Thorne, old pal, he's got the Steelers' #1 defensive line in the NFL, and he has the Bengals offensive line at 27. And that doesn't factor in that the left tackle Orlando Brown, who's come back, he came back last week, I think. He said after the game he's playing with a broken fibula, like a broken shin bone. I don't really know how that works, but that's probably not ideal against the best pass rush in the league. And then the other side, Amarius Mims, right tackle, he's questionable. I think it's a true sort of game time decision whether he's actually going to play. So if he does play, he's banged up. If he doesn't play, it's a backup right tackle again against the best defensive line in the NFL. So I think the first time the Steelers D-line, they won the game and they got 4 sacks, 2 fumbles on Joe Burrow. I think we were on the Steelers in that game as well. So I think the defense should have some luck. And then, the offense, again, in that 3-game stretch, they were missing Pickens for 2 of it. And then last week, he was shut out the game by Trent McDuffie. But the Bengals do not have a Trent McDuffie on that roster at all. So, I just think it should be pick 'em maybe this game. And you're just getting a little bit of extra value because the Steelers have looked dreadful for 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, and everyone loves the Bengals, but again, like they couldn't shake off the Broncos, and I honestly thought Bo Nix was like fairly bang average.
Trash.
Yeah, he was really poor. I put him up. Obviously, we didn't record last week, but I put a few bets in the Telegram group. But I honestly thought if there has to be success here against this Bengals secondary, and he made them look more good than they made him look bad. I thought, in a way, and
No,
so
I watched.
He was poor.
Go on, sorry. I had the Broncos in that game, partially because of the defensive line against the offensive line. But just watching Bo Nix dump it off for the entire first half without taking a single shot downfield, I had to turn it off because it was a shambles.
And who was he going against? Like, fucking, that's the time to make hay. And fine, they're 10.5-point favorites this week, but win the game last week. Don't worry about this week, And I'll get to it in a while. I don't think that's a slam dunk either against the Chiefs. No. I genuinely don't think it is.
And so with this one, with the Steelers, I'm sure we will have people watching shouting, if the Steelers win the game, it's going to affect the LA Chargers. If the Steelers win, the Chargers cannot improve their seeding at all. And then obviously Raiders plus 4.5 becomes a valuable bet. And certain books, I think 365 has blocked that double, or like the money line double. In America, DraftKings and FanDuel blocked the money line double, but not everywhere in the UK has blocked the money line double. So if you want to have a look around variations of it, see what you can find.
Yeah, fair play. All right, man. One player prop I like in this one. He had a big game last week. He had a couple of incentives. I think he's more or less got them though. But Mike Gesicki, the Bengals tight end, has been worked way more into this offense. And I think they're going to have to be pretty pass heavy here at different points. I think the Steelers will do a pretty good job of stopping the run. Chase Brown pretty banged up as well. In this same meeting in week 13, he caught all 5 of his targets for 53 yards. And his line this week is 30 at 194. So give me Mike Gesicki as well. Look, I'm not going to say his stat line last week, 10 receptions, 86 yards, and he had a 25% target share. I'm not saying he's going to get that, but T. Higgins is a small bit banged up. But actually, T. Higgins is banged up every week, so I wouldn't put that. He's probably banged up coming into last week as well, and you saw what he did. But yeah, I think it's a soft number for Gesicki at 30 plus receiving yards at 194. So yeah, I like that one. One of my few bets this week. I'm going to talk about one more incentive one. Mike Evans needs 85 or 86, either 85 or 86 yards and 5 receptions, and that's obviously, I don't even think you can get that bet builder on at the moment. The receptions paired into the receiving line, but he's line with Matchbook currently is 100 plus receiving yards at 186, and I think in terms of, they're 14-point favorites. I think Baker, being Baker, he will feed him, and he feeds him anyway. Like he's a first read look at vast majority of Baker's dropbacks, and I think if he's getting 85 or 86, I think he's getting to 100. And I don't think this line is coming down in any way. Of course, we see all these tweets every year, Brad, with the incentives, and the books know it. Like it's not like secret. I think it's not like 25, 30 years ago where the information wasn't to hand and the contracts weren't so open. But I suppose, Brad, a bit of advice we'd have is don't chase them too much. Like I think Geno Smith has got a few ones as well for big money. And I looked around, there's other ones for smaller money, and yeah, there's a couple of dead rubber games. I just wouldn't get too panicked about it. You start chasing them, the books are already aligned with it. And I'd say if anything, there's more value on the unders of some of those, Brad, than the overs.
It just depends on the number, doesn't it? It depends on the what you're chasing and the number, because there's enough out there, like Established the Run, Anthony Amico. They did a whole article, and they've got 40 odd on there. So I don't think the books are going to know all of them. So you just use your common sense. If they're chasing 88 and the books have got them at 75, you've probably got a good bet. If they've whacked it 5 yards above, I think there is enough out there. Whether it's 1,000-yard seasons for a player, or whether it is a contract, whether it's a record, like there's enough out there that not all of them are perfectly now priced in. So there it's still worth having a look through. But again,
chuck that into the Telegram group, man. I didn't see that one. I shared the underdog stuff yesterday. I didn't see that one, so maybe chuck into the Telegram group for the audience. Speaking of, actually, I never mentioned our sponsors, Matchbook. It took me 18 weeks or 16 podcasts to not
all
mention
the prices are from Matchbook. We've been
they're all from Matchbook. I can 100% assure you that. And like we even quoted there earlier the fact that the Vikings plus 3.5 at 178 is actually better than the exchange price. So obviously, there's some pretty sharp betters, obviously, as we know, on the Matchbook exchange. So these guys have a bet builder as well this year, as we mentioned previously, and you can populate the bet builder with singles and the player props and that Vikings plus 3.5 at 178 by just clicking on one selection and adding to your slip on your mobile device or your laptop or whatnot. And if you want to get involved, you want a couple of free bets, 50 quid in free bets. Use the bonus code POD50 when signing up, POD50 when signing up, and full terms and conditions can be found on the promotions tab at matchbook.com. Brad, I take a guess, right? So Minnesota and Detroit laid on Sunday night compared to some of the other games on Sunday. What's the handle going to be percentage-wise on that one game versus the rest? Like,
so that game states, as a percentage of the full week.
I'd love to see what FanDuel or DK put it out or something. It would be interesting to see it, wouldn't it?
Well over 50, surely.
Yeah, it has to be. Like obviously the games are like the Jags versus the Colts, Texans versus Titans. I mean, like who's fucking betting on those? You want your head checked. Jimmy Garoppolo playing Rams. Then the one other line of touch on, and Andy Reid has come on, obviously said that Carson Wentz is the starter. I think a few guys, like Chris Jones, will be rested, Pacheco will be rested. But like to me, right, 10.5, and we mentioned Bo Nix earlier. I think, like, in terms of even, look, the divisional aspect of it, no pressure on the Chiefs. I don't know, Brad. That's a lot of points. Laying 10.5 Bo Nix at the moment, unless they completely strip back. But I have to think there's going to be some starters for the Chiefs playing. I can't see like 22 starters being rested.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. A lot of the coaches always say, like, we've got 53 spots, we've got 48 active players. Like, we can't we can only rest so many guys, and as you say, Pacheco, Kelsey, Chris Jones, Mahomes.
Yeah.
That's 4 right there. You've not got many more. You can just set out the game.
Yeah.
A lot of people will know the stat: teams with nothing to play for versus teams that must win is something like 59% against the spread over the last 10 years or so. I would say there was some talk that the third string Chiefs quarterback might get in at the end of the game, so maybe first half +7, which I think
Who
is
is that?
around minus.
Who's the third string of the Chiefs?
I have no idea. Someone I've not heard of. Someone with a weird name.
Yeah.
But there was talk of him, so maybe it's the first half, which is +7, which seems pretty good.
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
as I say, we watched Bo Nix last week, and he's dreadful. So
187, you can back the Chiefs +7 on the exchange at Matchbook. Might even be a better price than that. But yeah, there was just one that jumped out at me. Yeah, the first half probably does make a bit more sense. All right, man. This will be quick recap. Heavy on the Vikings game and pro Vikings. Brad likes 3.5. The Vikings getting 3.5, 178. Team total with the Vikings over 27.5 to get 28 at even money, 2.0. And the bet builder in the first quarter, both teams over 2.5. So both teams that kick at least a field goal at 2.0. Saturday night game, Brad is going against the grain a bit versus public consensus, and Steelers money line 2.2. I like Mike Gesicki, 30 plus receiving yards at 184. Bengals tight end there. And yeah, I'm chasing the upside there with Mike Evans on Sunday. 100 plus receiving yards, 186. I think he goes off. He gets fed plenty by his old pal Baker Mayfield. Like we said, we will do the bet builder in the Telegram group on Sunday, but there is absolutely no prizes for guessing what game it's on. The one with the 56-point total, and I think this is the ultimate bet builder game, and the books will be absolutely sweating. They'll be hoping for a low scoring game. I don't think either of us can see it. Mate, best bet. I have to think it's something Vikings related. If I was to guess,
let's do the first quarter. Both teams to score over 2.5 evens.
Okay. Cool. You can build that at Matchbook under the teams tab on the bet builder, and I'm taking Mike Evans to get his money. He got his £3 million and another 1,000 yard receiving yards with 100 plus receiving yards at 186. All right, Brad, good stuff, mate. Like I said, quieter week. Very much focus on the late game on Sunday night. We'll be back for the playoffs next week, mate. Cannot wait. Get it in the bag. Looking forward to it. I actually wish the playoffs were this week, but what are you going to do? Don't forget, if you're listening to us on your preferred podcast app, though, please leave us a preferential review. It does get our content out to a wider audience and is much appreciated. Until next week, best of luck with your week 18 bets. Go easy with them. It's a tough week, and we'll chat to you next week. Bye for now.